Ayo, what is up, everybody? Coach Chad here, co-founder of the Next Level Coaching Academy and founder of the Fit CEO podcast by Chad Molyneux. I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are rocking and rolling. Let's get into it. Episode number 3. I also want to say a big thank you for you guys that are listening, because after 2 episodes, we've already cracked the top 100 podcasts in the United States in the fitness category. So quite honestly, I don't even know if that's a feat or not. I think it's a cool thing. I think we're doing well. But it's pretty cool to say that we have one of the top 100 podcasts in the United States after just 2 episodes. So big thank you to everybody that is listening. Quite honestly, that means a lot to me. And I didn't even think about this, but what we're going to be talking about today is having a small following, and the fact that I have less than 3,000 followers, but the podcast is doing well, goes to show that you don't actually need a big following. And I think that's a perfect segue into what we want to talk about today, which is that fact alone, that you don't need a large following in order to actually grow a successful online fitness coaching business. I don't know how much you guys know about my social media. I would assume you know a decent amount about my social media if you are listening to the podcast, but I don't have a large following. On Facebook, I have about 5,000 friends. Took me almost 2 years to get there. On Instagram, I have I think we're almost at 3,000 friends or 3,000 followers. I don't even know what they're called. 3,000, that's how much I care. 3,000 followers on Instagram. I don't have a large following, and you don't need a large following to have a successful business. As you guys know, the Next Level Coaching Academy is doing really well. My online fitness coaching business is a multiple 6-figure business, and it's all built off the back end of a small following. So what I hope to accomplish with this podcast today is breaking down the barrier and breaking down the thought process that you need a big following in order to be successful. And then at the end of the podcast, I'm actually going to give you guys a strategic, a very simple strategy on how to grow an actual online fitness coaching business with a small following. So make sure you stick around to the end if you are looking for actual strategy, something that you can take action on. And that's also part of my goal with this podcast. Yes, I want to talk mindset. Yes, I want to talk about things that are fun, but I actually want to give you guys real strategy, something tangible that you can leave the podcast with and actually see results in your online fitness coaching business. All right. So a little more prefacing before we dive into the actual content. As I mentioned, I started from zero. I had no followers on Instagram, no followers on Facebook. It was just a thought. It was just an idea. I started posting content. And yeah, I was able to build a pretty successful fitness coaching business. And the Next Level Coaching Academy, as you guys know, is a 7-figure business. And yeah, not a lot of followers on my end. So let's get into it, because this is an analogy that really helped me. Let's move outside of social media and let's look at, actual business, right? There's big business and there's small business, right? Big business, you got Coke, Pepsi, Walmart, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, right? You have these gigantic companies that are considered big business, right? They could put an ad out there. They barely even have to market, and they can make a shit ton of money, and they can make a shit ton of sales, right? Then you have little businesses, right? You have small businesses, your local mom and pop shop, right? Your local restaurants, right? Small businesses. You guys know the small businesses that you attend, right? Maybe you still have a hot dog stand in your town. There's actually a guy in my hometown who had a hot dog stand. Honestly, really good hot dogs, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Besides the point, small business. And what does small business do? How do they grow, right? It's a lot of meeting and greeting, going out and shaking hands and getting really in tune with the community and getting really in touch with your customers and having that one-to-one connection, right? So wrapping this into social media now, this is how I like to view followings. You have your big following, right? And your big following would be the same as the Amazons of the world and the Cokes and the Pepsis of the world, where, they can make a post or they could put out a piece of marketing material and it's going to be very easy for them to get leads and get clients, right? Swipe up and fill out my application, right? And that's big business, right? And that's big business. And then you have your little businesses or small followings that need to get really in tuned with their followers. They need to get really connected. They need to go out and meet and greet and shake hands, virtually, of course, because we're talking about social media, but theoretically it's all the same, right? So this really helped me, right? This really helped me deciphering between large followings and small followings as the same as large businesses and small businesses. And when you can view it this way, you can have a better understanding of what needs to happen and what you need to do in order to actually crush and grow your online fitness coaching business, right? And it's all perspective change, because there are many of things that little followings or small followings can do that large followings cannot. And it's leaning into these strategies. And this is exactly what I've done. It's leaning into these strategies that is going to set you apart from the people that have the larger followings, because that's the fear, right? The fear, and let's be honest, the fear is that you don't think that your services are good enough, or that you aren't good enough because you don't have X amount of followers. Once again, we're going to dive deeper into this and we're going to break this down, but it's asinine to think that, right? And when you when you change the perspective, and when we start talking about it more in this podcast, and you start looking at the things that you can do that large followings can't, I think it's going to connect the dots on why you're actually in a better spot than somebody who might have 500,000 or 1 million followers. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two is followers don't equal clients, right? You have the wrong metric. If you think that a follow equals a client, you are wrong, right? You have the wrong metric. That is totally not true. What actually gets clients, right? What is the correct metric, and what should we be looking at? What we should be looking at, and I've broken it down into 3 parts, is trust plus connection plus belief equals you getting a client, right? Aside from that, yes, obviously you need a really good sales process. Yes, you need a good onboarding process. Yes, you do need to know how to talk to your ideal client. But going a little bit deeper, going one step further, it's having trust with the followers that you have. It's having an actual personal connection with the followers you have. And it's also the followers that you do have believing that you can get them a result, right? That's all it takes. It takes trust, connection, belief equals a client. It doesn't take large following, big clout, fancy pictures, belfies, butt pictures, abs. That's the wrong metric, guys. That's the wrong metric. Those are totally superficial, right? And put yourself in the client's shoes. Would you purchase an online fitness coaching program? Would you purchase an online fitness coach because the other person has 100,000 followers, or because they post really awesome belfies, or because they have clout? No, that's not why you're going to hire a coach. You hire a coach, right? Making you the client, putting yourself in the client's shoes, because you trust the coach, you have a connection with the coach, and you believe the coach can get you a result, right? So why would it be any different? And why would individuals think any different than you? They wouldn't, right? They wouldn't. They would think exactly the same way as you, right? So hopefully this is opening up some doors for you. All right. So next point I have down here is you have a massive advantage that most large followings do not have, right? There's the exception, right? My business partner, Dayla, is the exception to this rule, right? My girlfriend, Caitlin, is the exception to this rule. And many of our friends in the online fitness coaching space are the exception to this rule. But there are a lot of people that have large followings that are completely disconnected from their followings, right? And the advantage that you have, being that you have a small following, is that you can have an extremely intimate relationship with your prospects and with the people that are following you, right? They are going to get to know you a hell of a lot more, and they're going to feel a lot more connected to you than they are going to feel connected to their large followings. Why is that? Because you can actually have conversations with them, right? You can actually respond to their DMs. You can actually respond to all of their comments. You can actually, swipe up and see who's viewing your stories and say thank you, and it not take you a whole entire month to get back to everybody, You have the advantage of providing that intimate feel that most large followings can't lean into, right? Now, next thing I want to touch on is, a lot of people, like I mentioned before, make followings or make followers the metric for clients, right? Here's another reason why that's not true. You have to look at the individual's page and ask yourself, why does this person have followers? What are they posting that has gotten them followers, right? More times than not, it is something extremely superficial. Fast cars, fancy houses, nice butt, nice abs, nice arms, cool clothing, right? It's things that would never equate to a client because they're following that individual to see something cool. They're not following that individual because they post awesome education. They're not following that individual because they actually want to be coached by that individual. They're following that person because there's something cool and something eye-catching and something that gives them a temporary relief when they're scrolling through their Instagram. And once again, this all comes back to you actually have the advantage as a small following. You just don't realize it. And the reason you don't realize it is because you're stuck in this vortex of thinking that you need a following. But I bet you haven't even looked at the person that you're comparing yourself to and asked yourself, why does that person have a following? And like I said, a lot of my friends are the exception, and they post amazing content. They post amazing educational pieces, and that is why they have a large following. And that's awesome, right? Because they're doing it the right way. And if you stumble upon, and I'm saying that correctly, honestly, if you stumble upon a big following because you're posting actual good content that people can benefit from, then hats off to you. You're doing awesome, right? But more times than not, like I mentioned before, most people with large followings, you have to look at the reason they have the following, and the reason they have the following, it will never equate to a client because it's eye candy, and it's something that nobody will ever buy into. It's something that gives somebody a temporary relief when they're scrolling through their Instagram, right? Other points that I wrote down here. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes. My handwriting is god awful. Is most of these large following coaches don't actually do one-to-one coaching, right? Most of these really large following coaches, they have a cookie cutter plan, and they say, swipe up and buy my cookie cutter plan. And, those plans are like $97, $37, right? And this is another part of the advantage that you have as a small following coach, is that you are going to give that intimate feel. Yes, you're going to give your intimate feel on that page, and we've already discussed that, but you're also going to give that intimate feel in your coaching packages and in your one-to-one coaching packages, because you don't sell cookie cutter plans. Think about people that have massive followings. It would be next to impossible to be able to coach all of those people one-to-one and give them all an intimate feel, right? So that's why it's so important as a small following. You do a high ticket program, you give them one-to-one coaching, and you provide that intimate feel. And that is what is going to separate you from these large following people, because you're actually going to be able to talk to your clients and get them results. Okay. So like I said, we're nearing the end. This is going to be a shorter podcast than normal, but I'm actually really excited about this one because I think this is going to help a lot of people. But I want to end this one by giving you guys a simple strategy, right? And I said I was going to do this. So let's get into it. All right. Here's the 3-step process. So break out your notebook, right? So going back to that formula that I talked about before, right? The formula that I talked about to get a client. Yes, as I mentioned, there is strategy behind the sales process of this, and talking to your ideal client, the whole 9 yards. But when we go a little bit deeper, it's really trust. Do they trust you? Connection. Do they like you? And belief. Do they think you will get them results? If you check off at least 2 of those 3 boxes, ideally you want to check off 3 of those 3 boxes, you're going to get yourself a client, right? So this will all tie into the strategy that I'm about to give you. So step number 1, connect, right? And how do you connect? And honestly, you may not believe this now, but you actually connect through your sales process, right? And a lot of people think the word sales is stingy, and I'll probably do a whole entire podcast on this, but sales is actually transformation, right? Because if you do not sell the individual that you are the best choice and that you are going to get them the results, then that individual will never join your program, and they won't get the results, right? So your sales process, or at least the way that we teach our sales process in the Next Level Coaching Academy, is it should be entirely conversational. The sole purpose of your sales process is to build a relationship, and a part of building that relationship is building the trust and belief that you can help them and that your product and service is the best product and service for them. Okay. So what I wrote down here is step number one, you need to connect, right? How do you do that? Like I said, you do it through your sales process, more specifically through DM outreach. That's contact number one. And once again, in the Next Level Coaching Academy, we have all the scripts. Everything is conversational based. I've been on well over 1,000 sales calls, and a lot of times I've literally been asked by individuals, am I on a sales call right now, or am I on a podcast getting interviewed? And I crack up every time, but I also know it's a win because I know that I'm doing the right thing. All right. So DM outreach is contact number one, right? You could do a 2-call close or a 1-call close. We teach both of those in the Next Level Coaching Academy as well. The purpose of the 2-call close is if you have a colder lead, they don't really know you yet. You want to take them through a 2-call process so that they get to know you a little bit more. And then on the second call is when you're going to present your services, right? 1-call close is somebody who already knows, likes, and trusts you. They're like, hell yeah, let's dive in. You can get them on 1 call, build that relationship, talk about the program, and see if it's a good fit, right? So you're going to be able to connect through the DMs. You're going to be able to connect through your sales calls, right? And lastly, you're going to be able to connect through the one-to-one offer that you are going to be providing, right? So you're going to be able to connect once you get them as a one-to-one client to a much deeper level than any large following will be able to do, because those large following people more times than not are just offering cookie cutter plans, and they're not actually offering any sort of coaching. Okay. So that's number one. And number one is huge. Number one needs to be consistent. You need to be doing number one every single day. That's DM outreach, sales calls, and delivering your one-to-one service. Okay. That's the lifeline of your business. Number two, and like I mentioned before, why do people with large followings have a large following? More times than not, right? Obviously, there's the exceptions, but more times than not, the reason they have it is for a reason that will never actually get them a client. So how can you be different, right? First step, don't look at your following. Second step, post education and your personality, right? You have an edge, like I mentioned before, because most large followings, they're posting things for clout, right? They're posting their butt, they're posting their abs, they're posting things for clout, they're posting things that are egotistical, and they're posting things that aren't actually helping the individual. So you can stand out amongst these people with large followings, and you could be different when you provide education and you let your personality shine through. Okay. And the last one, and quite honestly, probably the most important one, is you have to get results, right? You have to get your clients results. Don't get tripped up and say, oh, well, how can I get started if I've never gotten somebody a result? I'm talking about over time, as you're getting clients, as your business is growing, you have to prove time and time again that you can get people results. Because if you can prove that you can get people results, that's how word of mouth starts, right? That's when you have testimonials, right? And when you have proof of concept, going back to the formula that we talked about before, trust, connection, and belief, people will believe that you can get them results, and it makes this process much, much easier. Okay. So, deep breath. This is probably, out of all 3 of the podcasts that I've done now, this is probably, quite honestly, my favorite one. I hope this helps you guys. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me in the DMs, the_fit CEO on Instagram. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, make sure that you subscribe. I think that's the word. Once again, I'm still very new to this stuff. Make sure that you leave a 5-star rating, leave a review, share it out with a friend. Quite honestly, that's all I really ask for. If you enjoyed this, screenshot it, post it on your story, share it with a friend that you feel like would benefit from this. But anyways, I will see you guys on episode 4.